And therefore, I think today, because of this imbalanced psychic development or lack of prama, our art, literature, architect, philosophy, science, and many other branches of human knowledge are contaminated, are not properly harnessed, they are not properly developed. So if the dance which doesn't have any rhythm or loses the rhythm, or painting, for example, will have lack of proportions, as Baba gives certain examples in his discourse. The music loses the very harmony and uh, melody. Then so what happens is, now this is somehow it's a broader sense. The prama, lack of prama in psychic sphere does not mean only that we should not think anything or think positive alone, but I think there has to be a base, and in order to have this positive expression as well, one cannot be Baba says, if you go through guide of human conduct, there are also mentions of it, and in some places a thief, a person doesn't know how to steal. A person doesn't know how to steal and doesn't steal. And person knows how to steal and doesn't steal. Which one is greater? The one who knows and doesn't steal, than the one who doesn't know even how to steal. So I think the potentiality, the psychic and physical potentials that we have, when they are properly utilized, they are not abused. In that sense, that is control on our psychic, physical level. Now, this physical control means our internal control according to biopsychology, as Baba says, and also psychic control on what kind of thoughts are prevailing and what are the priorities of our thoughts, what are the important things that we should be engaged in, so that it does not create a ripple of negativity in the mind, and that kind of awareness. So there are people, generally people work in psychic and physical level on two ways. One is under pressure, and another one is out of consciousness. They're aware about it. They're aware of it, that this should be done or this should not be done. There is a proper kind of major matrix or the yardstick, and the priorities are made according to the ideology. What is this non-compromising attitude with your ideology? That our ideology first, and nothing that is according to this ideology should be the point of my focus. Now that awareness, and now if we have that awareness in life, then I think we work spontaneously. Nobody has to pressure us. But then it also works, because sometimes you need pressure. But what are the defects? When we work under pressure, which most cases does happen to us, we do not grow ourselves. We do the things, but we don't grow. But if we grow consciously by our awareness, by our own initiative, for that we need a proper routine when we wake up in the morning, how our day is passed, how we end up our day, etc., etc. When we have that awareness during the day, what is happening? Because that awareness is mine. I know what I'm doing. So our personality grows. I think in our mission, we also, at our level, wherever we are, it is very much needed or indispensable, I would say, that we should create this awareness, as Baba is talking of, the kind of mentality. We should have that awareness so that we grow consciously, but under the pressure of circumstances, we may achieve results, maybe good result, but that would be just a result, but the personality on his own may not be able to do anything. So I think that is psychic balance, or psychic prama would be where we have this genuine kind of ability to be aware. And our human mind is like that. If anything that is not right comes to our mind, it says, no, better not do it. But our instinct sometimes is so powerful that one does it. Now, I think the psychic ability means that we should somehow get rid of, or we should channelize our instinct into higher things. And if that is done, then I think we have done a great job. So I think then we do justice to Prama topic, as Baba says. So Baba says also that I think in Prama, in our physical, in our psychic life, we need two things. We need a symmetrical approach, and we also need a systematic approach. So symmetrical approach is everything goes in line one, and we want to create a wall. We put each brick in a way that it forms a wall. That is a symmetric way of doing. And systematic is that there is everything has a system, everything has a certain law. There is a natural law that we move, and we cannot, and whether it's a discipline of the organization, it's a discipline, spiritual discipline, is our personal, whatever it is, there has to be a systematic approach to life. Not only symmetric will do. Many people like very much everything so very neat and clean, but when it comes to the system, they cannot wake up properly in the morning. They may not join Panchajanya. They may not go to bed early in the morning. So that system is disturbed. So the cleanliness alone is not not everything, but we should have a system in our life. And system is discipline, and symmetrical is our vision of wholeness. Our vision should be universal, and that's how it works. So, if we have to have success, full whatever expression of our mind in terms of poetry, in terms of ideas, and etc., etc. So I think it is very important. So how does the mind work? Mind gets an idea, then the idea gets expressed. It requires a language, but first of all, it's important what is creating the idea. Second is what kind of language. Yes, language is so important in life that sometimes it says that the words can hurt a person more than an arrow. An arrow may kill a person or may not, but the word can completely mutilate a person, never ever to grow up. I think, therefore, the language, when there is a psychic and spiritual balance, the word that we use, which grow from our Muladhara chakra, I think that is symmetric and systematic approach of or the expression of a language, and therefore that language is important. It should be that it impacts the person, and it only does when there is a psychic force behind it, there is a spiritual force behind it, there is benevolence behind it. So Baba says that simplicity, sincerity, and straightforwardness, the three things are so important in order to have a proper expression in life, which means that when what I say, that saying is meaningful, it has some purpose that I'm saying. Otherwise, why should I talk if it doesn't have any purpose? So why should I have useless talks? And therefore, in conduct rule, Baba says very clearly that we should not engage ourselves in discussions, or we should not talk. It's just a waste of energy. So I think here it is very important to follow the system, and the system means the discipline in life. And therefore, in Prabhat Sangeets, Baba has made it very clear that Prabhat Sangeets have four distinct qualities. One is that it has an inner idea. Anything, it has an inner idea. It has a particular lyric or a particular language to express. It has a melody that would touch somebody, and it has a rhythm. Now, this, if our language is also like poetry, is also like the same, has all these four factors in it, then you know how sweet it can be. And the refinement, that is called culture. Yes, sorry, civilization. Culture could be a amalgamation of our behavior, day-to-day life, whatever it is. But if it is also influenced by the spiritual values of life, it can be very, very effective. But at the same time, it is also important that it is, expressed in a proper manner. So the language, the choice of words sometimes. So I think it's good to have good vocabulary, and the more vocabulary we have, Baba says there are humans, those who have only 800 words in their vocabulary. There are some, I think chimpanzee group, they have 900 words in vocabulary. Now, having 900, 800 words, if you also have a limited word of vocabulary, our expression is going to be very limited. We don't even know what is right and what is wrong. And therefore, Baba has given this Shabda Chainika, Varna Vichitra, all that, the different meaning and expressions. So I think psychic prama would depend on very much how our mind is being formed, and our language, our behavior, and all kinds of things. This is all psychic. So I think if you have lost prama, it is only because that the four factors that Baba has mentioned haven't been taken into consideration. So, in the philosophy, that's another aspect of psychic balance. The philosophy in the past, there was an effort to understand the mysteries of creation. Now there are nobody, and that's why Baba gave a cycle of creation, Brahma Chakra. This Brahma Chakra is to understand the mystery of creation. How has human Parampurusha created this universe? And that was the beginning that Baba says that when this triangle Guna Trikon is kind of disturbed, then gradually the flow of creation begins. And if we know it properly, so I think Baba has made a very clear, nobody ever in life has, or in past ever did that, or has ever done it. And therefore we have to understand the evolution of our life. And Baba said, so the philosophy generally was used or utilized in order to understand the mystery of creation. And the scholars, or the human scholars of different branches of knowledge, established various schools and philosophies, but they couldn't really understand it. And now you have to go through those six schools of philosophy. You know, six schools of philosophy. They have their own interpretation of life, or many things. Uh, but anyway, that's not my topic to get into those. So these different philosophies have come up with different ideas, but they could not really establish the relationship between human beings, that is the creation, and Parampurusha. They have different thoughts and different ideas. Some became theists, some became atheists, and our society is full of. Some are idealist, some are materialist. Now, the idealistic sense is that they have been thinking of their own, but not in terms of the society. Baba has touched both. And then for this, I think it's important to understand the six spokes of life. In the six spokes of life, Baba has very clearly made it that there has to be a practical cult, not the philosophy first. First was the practical cult. Second, the ideology. Third, the social outlook. Fourth, the socio-economic theory. Fifth, the scriptures, and sixth is preceptor. So without that proper practice, the ideology would never be explored and implemented. So I think Baba's approach has been very pragmatic, not idealistic, and neither materialistic. The very purpose of philosophy was to discover the mystery of human life, why we are here, and why and what should we do. And therefore, I think there is another aspect that Baba also talks about in terms of a prama in spiritual life, which will in spiritual life. So I think the main purpose of philosophy and to get rid of this psychic ailment or imbalance or lack of prama we have, it is important that the individual are guided to try to minimize the balance minimize the distance between supreme consciousness and individual consciousness, or macrocosm and macrocosm. The less is the distance, the more they will be useful for the society, and it will reflect in our education, it will reflect on intellectual thinking, it will reflect our planning, it will reflect our on our system. The psychic world creates the infrastructure of the society. So, but it is also not enough. So then there is, in order to create a proper infrastructure of a society, or the force that it should move, every individual has to be very much attuned with the supreme thing, supreme knowledge. And therefore, the third is the lack of spiritual prama, the lack of prama in spiritual sphere. Baba says that the purpose of spirituality is, as I already mentioned, to discover Param Purusha, or the existence of Param Purusha, that he is within us. And without him, our life is meaningless. To have that kind of understanding that minus him, I am zero, and with him I am hundredfold and thousandfold. So this macrocosm, that is cosmic consciousness, or cosmic Brahma, and the microcosm, the human beings, and they, and this Paramatma and Jivatma, that kind of balance, Jivatma and Paramatma in relation with, in deep relation, in love relation. There's macrocosm and macrocosm, that I'm just an instrument, but without him I cannot work. So that kind, in general, having that removal of that ignorance of spirituality, and because if they are good, because if it is not there, Baba says that if there is no proper philosophy or ideology to guide them in the spiritual sphere, it will lead them to a very hazardous life, very hazardous life, very, and they will go, pilgrimages and religious superstitions and all that. And today, because of real spirituality, those things are, and that is a lack of prama in spiritual life, that there is no clear example, uh, uh, clear example of spirituality where people are guided towards. But individual life, as I said earlier, there have been a lot of, there have been some efforts there. So Baba says the spiritual world, based on the relationship between me and Param Purusha, between macrocosm and microcosm, between Jivatma and Paramatma, to understand and establish that relationship through our spiritual practices, which I just mentioned, six spokes of life, of society. And once we have that approach, so now we understood why there is a lack of prama in physical sphere, why there is lack of prama in psychic sphere, why there is lack of prama in spiritual sphere. Now Baba gives another a dimension to it. He says that in order to have prama in physical sphere, it is called prama samriddhi. It's called Prama Sampridhi, the importance of Prama in three spheres of human existence. That is, the physical progress associated with psychic and spiritual development. When there is a physical progress, everything that we do, whether it's agriculture, mineral, whatever it is, Baba says that there is a locotricon or pramatricon, but there are also sub triangles, and the sub triangles are those which we need in our lives, whether five minimum, lack of five minimum requirements, and the ingredients of five, the five, to provide five minimum requirements, agriculture, whatever these physical resources are. So he says that Prama Samriddhi is when this physical progress is aligned, is associated with the psychic and spiritual development. If it is not, it is not Samriddhi, it is not Prama in a physical sphere. So that balanced state of material development, and at the same time a movement toward the spiritual heights with proper adjustment that the mind should do, the psycho spiritual elevation of individual life, and then at the same time a collective life, that is called Brahma Samriddhi. Then Pramariddhi is on the psychic level. It is a balanced psychic stratum, reaches the peak of progress progress of human beings and has adjustment with the material and spiritual at the same time. So it is impossible to have a psychic development, psychic progress, unless there is physical samriddhi or there is spiritual approach. So both of them have to be there. So psychic prama is established only when there is a physical amenities are at par or in sufficient amount for in order to live in a society as human beings. And at the same time, human beings must have a spiritual goal in life. If they don't have a spiritual goal, Baba says they are as good as animals. You know that very small. It's very easily said. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunancha samanyam etad pashu naranam dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashu samana. So that is what is here. That in the psychic sphere, it is important that it's not only eating, drinking, procreation, and fear, but at the same time there is a power of discrimination, that is dharma in life, and that cannot be just dismissed. And therefore pramaridhi, pramaridhi is that balance between physical and psychic physical and spiritual spheres. Then it is Pramaridhi, which means what happens there? Baba says very clearly, he says, when we have that kind of arrangement, then what happens that the ectoplasmic stuff, that is our mind, undergoes pulverization. It powders down, because that is an approach. When we have physical amenities available, our spirituality is our is our goal. In this case, what happened, not only in mass volume, mind does not grow in mass volume, but it also grows in every single step. Whatever is related, it grows in every level, and therefore it moves towards the pinnacled intellect, that is called Agrya Buddhi, and the psychic adjustment at the same time with the of mind with. So that leads to pulverization of uh, leads to pulverization of. Now, that is what the purpose of life is, that our ectoplasmic stuff should become merge with aham, and aham with mahat, and that is the whole process. Now what happened, the Brahma Siddhi, this is Pramaridhi, where this pulverization begins, powdered down, the mind gets powdered down, and then gradually move towards spirituality. That arrangement and that kind of atmosphere, that kind of possibility would be called psychic or Prama Riddhi. Then comes Prama Siddhi. Now, Prama Siddhi, Baba says it is a pinnacled state of mind where there is an absolute equilibrium in all spheres, that is in physical, psychic, and spiritual. That means physical in synchronicity with psychic and physical development or physical spheres. If it is not, then it can't be of spirit. It can't be Prama Siddhi. So, in order to attain Prama Siddhi, the pinnacle mind should go towards absolute equilibrium and then it will lead to spiritual progress on all level, and mind will grow in magnanimity. And the Baba says that the magnanimity of mind, it grows into magnanimity, and at the same time, what will happen that the whole existence of human beings will merge with the Param Purusha. So now what is happening here, the Loka Trikona and Prama Trikona of individual and collective life will, it is very difficult to achieve liberation But individual life, it is possible that individual can achieve liberation. So having Prama in spiritual life means and intellectual life and in physical life are indispensable in order to have a society worth living, a society where everybody would have human values granted to them, which I just mentioned. So the another point that Baba talks about, he says that this lokatrikon, if these imbalances continue, if these imbalances continue, and then what may happen, and this is what is happening. He says that when this balance will be disturbed, at that time what would happen, that there will be what would happen, that there would be derangement, the derangement in life, and it will start, something will work, something will not work, diseases will happen, some other problems will happen, on and off, but may not be always. But this derangement will happen when there is no synchronicity, or there is no Prama in this life. So Lokatrikon and Pramatrikon or Pramatrikon of individual and collective life will be disturbed. When there is problems in the individual life, there are problems in society. When there are problems in society, human beings also will have those problems. So what will happen? The flow of evolution of Lokatrikon, the first phase of creation, emanating the first expression, so that will be disturbed. Now, if that is not checked, so there are ways to, if that is not checked at that level, what would happen? Then this balance will continue further, imbalance will continue further, and subsequently it will arrive to a stage where I think the lokotrikon of an individual life and the influences of time, space, and person will have more hold on the human mind, and there would be clash in propensities. There will be clash in within the personality, and clash outside, and therefore, as a result, Pramatrikon will lose for the second time, and then from derangement, it will get to disruption. Then it is completely disrupted. It cannot really function. But there, if it is not taken care of, by providing that all we have discussed, if by providing them at the same time guidance, environment, education, etc., or the institutions which are responsible for it, then it might happen that it will go to degeneration, or spirituality is not made available to everybody. The psychic composure is not provided, or there is an environment for it, or the minimum requirements which people need, and there is proper growth in that not done. As a result, what might happen is there will be complete degeneration. So failing to counteract all these trends at different lives, so somebody has to think about it at different levels, it will destroy the whole thing. And then today society has reached to the state of degeneration. Now it is in this state of degeneration, what can happen? Baba says that the society has reached as the bewilderness of economic bankruptcy. It has reached a social unrest. It has come to a cultural degeneration, and the religious superstitions, dogmas, and all that. These are all, and right now, nobody can do anything. And therefore, we know that Baba had come for this purpose to help us out. So, what is the solution? The solution should be, Baba says that it can't be from degeneration to derangement. It has to go as it happened. It should go backward in the same sequence, from degeneration to disruption, from disruption to the derangement. And the state of depression, sorry, degeneration of Lokatrikon or this Pramatrikon can be restored cannot be restored immediately, and but it should be restored immediately. And if it is not, then it would be a problem. So the solutions is that to whenever it happens, one should try to restore it step by step. Should make arrangements on physical, psychic, and spiritual level. And then finally, it should merge with Guna Trikorn. And that is the final from degeneration to disruption, from disruption to derangement. And from derangement, it should be allowed by complete atmospheric and social conditions, proper guidance, proper institutions, so that the individual can or they can gain attain guna trikorn.